Now we'll move to the next session of the day. I would like to invite Harmeen Mehta, CIO and Head Cloud and Security Business, Bharti Airtel, and Danish Khan, Assistant Editor, ETTelecom.com, for a fireside chat on the topic Digital Transformation, IT and Telecom Convergence. Welcome, Ms. Mehta.
Hello everyone, we have Harmeen Mehta, CIO, Head of Security and Cloud Business at Bharti Airtel for this fireside session. In this session, she is going to discuss the IT and telecom convergence and how it is helping a telecom operator transform its operations and network. So let's begin the session. And my first question to you, Harmeen, is in the last 6 months, the digital landscape has changed, right? And we often talk about services for people who are already digitally connected. What about the rest of the people in the country, the 1.3 billion population, and what sort of services and what sort of work needs to be done for them? How to bring them online and solve their problems?
I think two things, Danish. I think one of the first ones is that if I look at the last 6 months, I think the entire digital landscape across the country has changed dramatically. I think a lot of people who previously were digitally savvy but reluctant to make purchases online, for example, they've come out of that reluctance, and as they say, necessity is the mother of all invention. So that's what's allowed them to embrace the adoption of digital. So that's why all companies across the country have seen a big surge in a lot of their customers actually turning digital when they were not earlier. It's the same for us as well. More than 70% of our entire recharges moved online literally within a week, 10 days of the lockdown starting as well. And a big part of that are actually sustained, while some has kind of walked back, but a big part of it is actually sustained. I think the interesting thing is that for those who are actually not as digitally savvy, and there is still a big part of India that is still not all on smartphones, etc. So how to bring digital to them? And I think that's where you know these are the guys who probably leaned more on those who were digitally savvy to help them during this period. And that's one of the things that I was very one of the things we reacted very, very quickly, and we launched a really innovative program which allowed anybody to kind of recharge for anybody else, and creating those small communities for people, and what we call small superheroes, who actually would just digitally enable a lot of the people around them who normally would not be. But I think there is a lot that needs to be done for this entire population of which is more than 500 million Indians that is not as digitally savvy, or still have digital reluctance, or actually not on smartphones for now. And I think one of the biggest barriers is that it's the adoption of digital. It's also their comfort in being able to read and understand really well what's written on the apps. And a large part of the ecosystem of digital apps is still based only on the English language, and that's something that we are really looking to change. I think our all our IVRs and ways of interacting with the customers, we do that in over 20 languages, and now we're starting to bring that onto the app as well. Our app is already multilingual and across most of the regional languages across India, and every day we are seeing the adoption of that really, really go up. The other piece is this still doesn't solve the full part of the problem, because there is still a bracket of customers which are not as comfortable and as confident in just doing the transactions online and having the confidence that they've done the right thing. And hence, in order to change that, I think this is where I truly believe that vernacular through voice is going to make a very big difference. So that's one of the other pieces that we are investing in heavily. You can literally talk to the Airtel Thanks app today, and in Hindi and English. And now, we're going to continue to move towards more and more regional languages. And I think, and this is something that we've actually done, fully made in India, very proud of it, investing a lot in it as well. But these kind of things and these kind of initiatives, the more companies like ours adopt them, that is what is going to start changing the culture. So I actually feel that there is a very big part of responsibility that lies on corporates as well, that how do we take our products and goods to these people and not just wait for them to come to us. And these are a lot of enablers that we can actually use to go and really penetrate their market, as well as break this big chasm that exists between the really digitally savvy and those who are not. We have to cross that chasm.
My next question is on the IT and telecom convergence. Since you had a lot of businesses, including the IT part of the business as well, and working with a telecom company, how do you see the marriage between both the functions and how it is now helping and redefining the whole space for the development?
There is a convergence, but there are still different competencies as well. So it's a mix of both. I think a lot of so we all of us, in engineering, we kind of grew up in the software world. So that's what we understand really, 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 really well. And I think that software can be used to create any use case, anything that we want to go and take to the market, whether it's something digital, it is something related to core telco, or it is related to enabling something on the network side. But I do feel, I think in our industry, it is becoming very, very important that the network and the engineering sides really, really work well together, in both helping digitize the networks, but equally in bringing the best consumer experience to our customers as well. And I think with some very clever use cases that hopefully, the next generation of technology will bring in, that will actually bring that even closer. So I think it just needs a lot more deeper friendships and a lot more trust and ability to collaborate within organizations. And I think it really is. This is what things like this really bring out the at least the Airtel spirit within our organization, because I think we're all very, very focused on either solving the business problem or solving on the customer problem, and everything else kind of just falls in place. And it's all about what competencies we have within the organization. And I've always felt that talent belongs to a company rather than a division. And I think if we continue to work with those philosophies, the problems that we need to solve for the next generation or the next wave of digital India are very, very interesting. And that's what really is going to keep us continuing to work at it and continue to deliver on it for both the company as well as the country. And that itself, I think, is a highly motivating factor to bring any two parts of an organization together. And I actually think that 99% of the time and in 99% of the organizations, I think you find people really do collaborate well, and they want to, because everybody's focused on solving a problem. Nobody wakes up in the morning and thinks, my job is how can I do the least today. Everybody wakes up in the morning thinking, how can I do the best possible thing that I can do today? How can I really make today count in my life? And I think as we keep that philosophy, everything else is just noise.
So Harmeen, my next question is on the security part. You being the head of security at Bharti Airtel, in the last 6 months, how has the landscape changed for Bharti Airtel, and what Bharti Airtel is doing to address security challenges, considering the situation right now, a geopolitical situation right now?
I think the last few months have seen an unprecedented amount of cyber attacks on organizations, on not only on critical infrastructure, but also on all kinds of employees of various applications and various companies. And I think a lot of the malicious elements out there know that many companies, in order to very quickly enable work from home, enabled access into various applications, data centers, maybe not the way they would have ideally done in a normal circumstance. And I think most of the organizations, especially the small, medium organizations, very used to doing different kinds of BCP and DR drills that are aimed towards, doing everything at one site, rather than actually going through the scenario that we went through during this entire crisis, which is the entire country kind of locked down altogether, all sites locked down, and physical access into the sites is very, very limited. At the same time, the workloads completely shifted, the ways of working completely changed. And as all of that happened and every organization coped with it in a different way, I think we were very lucky. We were, many years ago, we kind of moved most of our applications. We run on our own cloud, very virtual, easily accessible. My colleague has been running his entire networks and running the NOC remotely. We ran most of the data center remotely. And we also had some really, really, loyal heroes within the organization to which I feel very indebted. And these are the heroes who actually decided that for some of the critical functions, it was important that we had some physical presence in all of these critical data centers, MSCs, etc. And they actually quarantined themselves inside these buildings. So, very, very grateful to them. And again, it just shows the spirit of both humanity and professionalism that people bring today, and this generation actually brings today. And I think all of that has allowed different organizations to cope with things in a different way. But the amount of the phishing attacks across the country have gone up more than 500 600%, and so have a lot of DDoS attacks as well. I think the malicious elements are just trying to attack where companies are most vulnerable. So yes, I think overall, and this is a global phenomenon, not just within India, but all around the world. The landscape has completely changed, and you see today companies actually investing more in cybersecurity and thinking about the real problems that it can cause for the businesses and how to cater for those as well. We run cybersecurity, of course, for ourselves and for our customers as well. So we've really been focused on saying, first of all, what do we need to do? We're a critical infrastructure to protect the country, and what do we need to do to protect the company, and then of course protect the users as well. And we've been running on a high alert in our own security intelligence centers for almost 6 months now, ever since the lockdown. A lot happening in this space, I guess. But I think the need to have the right level of expertise to be able to cope with these things is very, very important. And security is something. It's such a see. First of all, you can never say you are done. You're secure. I mean, you have to keep investing in it and keep doing it again and again, because the other guys are always going to try to be ahead of you. And the second piece is that it requires a lot of expertise as well, and hence the need for organizations to make sure that they've got access to that expertise. How they do it, whether it's in-house or through a partner. But I think again, these days cybersec has really evolved, and the use of AI, ML, and especially in cybersec, is really helping organizations in being able to catch attacks early, being able to prevent them from causing any harm, and not really wait for humans to react. It's technology and systems acting themselves, and I think making the right investments in this area is going to serve the companies really, really well.
So when we talk about cloud, and you are heading that business as well for Bharti Airtel,
Yeah.
So what does it mean? Is it like growing cloud as a business, or adoption of cloud within the organization, because cloud is becoming all pervasive, enabling all those new things? So what do you have to say when you talk about cloud, and how Airtel is making strides in terms of developing this whole cloud ecosystem?
See, the adoption of the cloud is an enablement for business these days, and it can happen in different shapes or forms. I think for small startups, it's a very quick way of getting them up and running without having to do all the big capex investments they would have to do otherwise. And it's really about saying that it's allowing companies to go and focus on what is their expertise for their business. So they are actually concentrated on what they need to do for their organization and growing their business, and not about a lot of the other adjacencies and peripherals that actually take up a lot of time and energy. And especially for small and medium sized organizations, I think it's a real liberator. I think for large organizations and enterprises, it's a very different game. It's all about how to be able to grow fast and grow at scale. And whether you have your own private cloud or you're going on the public cloud, it's really about building that elasticity and the ability to scale literally overnight. I mean, you go run a massive marketing campaign, and the last thing you're worrying about is that, oh, I need a 3-month lead cycle because I'm going to go and buy these hundreds of servers and they'll get shipped and I'll put them. I think that entire piece has changed the game, because it's all about growth of the business and enabling the business as well. And I think that's where I feel for the future of digital, cloud is definitely one of the strongest enablers that can be, regardless of which shape or form you adopt the cloud. And I think for all kinds of organizations and industries, the ability to concentrate on what they need to do for their business, b ability to have that kind of auto scaling, literally at your fingertips, your ability to and flexibility to scale up and scale down both, as you need. And also I would say the third piece is a lot of capabilities as well. Organizations that are cloud native, that are born in the cloud, and millennials who actually think digital native as well, it's much more about saying that how I can do something with a lot of ease. Previously, even if I look within my own organization, everybody needed to have some more basic understanding of what kind of infrastructure they were going to run things on. Now there's one core team who runs all of that, and it's their job to capacity plan to ensure everything is there. They scale up, they scale down. Systems actually do it themselves. Most of our apps, they kind of have a mind of their own. They grow when they need to grow, and they shrink back when they need to shrink back. And that's really allowing the right engineers and the right developers to only focus on solving the business problems and not worry about everything else. I also think that as what these last 6 months have also changed is they've really impacted the SME market in a very significant manner. In order to bounce back, a large portion of these companies are really going to have to think that what is it that they need to do to be able to reach their customers very quickly and in a digital manner, because the other conventional means of reaching the customers are no longer as available. Neither are the customers as comfortable walking into stores and browsing and touching everything. And so I think this our entire psyche has changed a little bit, and that is what is changing how we run our businesses, how we think about our businesses, and how we enable other companies who actually run their businesses as well. And that's where one of the biggest fuels into this business is going to be the cloud.
So now let's talk about Xlabs.
Yep.
The company had previously talked about it. So what's the update? What technologies Xlabs is currently involved in building, and how Xlabs has actually helped Bharti Airtel in terms of like bringing out those new technology-based solutions to the market? If you could just inform us.
Xlabs is our it's part of our digital arm, and our a very big portion of Airtel Engineering is actually focused on building these digital capabilities, both for ourselves and for our customers. So a lot of things I actually talked about, they are enabled and built by Xlabs. I mean, all of our digital properties, which are all seeing great growth during these last several months. Everything it comes out of that that part of the organization. There's a lot of concentration on building deeper capabilities around data science and data processing and analytics, etc. as well. There are also different new ideas that keep coming in, and a lot of these guys are building new solutions to solve those new problems. When I talked about Vernac and voice capabilities, etc., all that's coming out of the same shop of Xlabs. So it's part of the entire the digital part of the organization that's really creating all this value, both for the customers and for us, and for both equally. We're focused on of course the consumer business, but also on the enterprise business, and creating all the new tech that's needed to enable enterprises to actually interact with Airtel as well, and both for their growth, solving their problem, how we can help enterprises grow their business, how we can help them engage better with us as a customer, when we service them, and for them to be able to solve any problems that they have, and to bring what is best for them to them as well. And in some cases also working with enterprises to solve their problems with their customers. So B2B to C models, all of the which are evolving, and all this tech, everything comes out of Xlabs.
So my next question is on open source technologies, because a lot of discussions and actual work is happening around open source right now in the telecom industry. Open RAN is one technology, then adoption of other open source technology. How do you see open source as a way of transforming networks and IT processes? Do you think that open source is the way forward in the telecom industry, or like obviously it comes with its own merits and demerits when we develop newer things based on this?
We are very, very big users of open source tech, both within my shop as well as within the network organization as well. We're adopting it very fast. I think we, for the last few years, have repivoted many things on open source. Some of our most critical applications actually run on very key open source technologies. And I think we have some great partnerships with, with the community of committers as well, who are, developers and technologists work very, very closely with. It's really good to see we are starting to contribute back into open source as well, which is, pride and joy of every developer. But more importantly, I think it's how it's liberating the entire development cycle for engineering, and again making it easier, faster for us to get new solutions to market as well for the business. And I think this level of disruption is inevitable in any industry. If the software industry is disrupting everybody else, open source is disrupting the software industry in itself. And I actually think it's really good to see, because that is what is going to spark the entire digital revolution in the country as well. A lot of, again, there are two reasons for adopting open source. One is that it actually helps you solve a problem very quickly. And a lot of the open source technologies, see, they're very new age technologies. So I think for large enterprises, it's less about the fact that, oh, I don't have to pay the conventional and hefty license fees and go through those big negotiations, and 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 then maintain those licenses as well. And then some Tom, Dick, and Harry will jump on you at any point in time saying, hey, I am the auditor and I'm going to go audit this. And but it's much more about the capabilities as well, because a lot of this is new age software. The problems that you encounter when building software for digital, when you are building, especially in a consumer world, and you've got digital properties which has got 100 million customers interacting with those digital properties, and you're going in small things, you can't go to a conventional database and keep doing those lookups when you've got so many millions of concurrent users. You're going to have to rely on different kind of in-memory solutions or cache solutions and so on and so forth. And these are the problems that actually open source has really done very well in solving for the world. And hence, people take a lot of pride in both using them and contributing back to them. And I love it, because I don't have to deal with a lot of bureaucracy around all of these technologies and softwares. So it liberates me to concentrate on doing what I do best.
So, as a technologist, which are those newer technologies you think will take or will assume a larger role or play a crucial role going ahead? If you could list those technologies which you think could disrupt the industry.
So I'm actually going to start by doing something I don't normally do, but I'm going to start with a cliche, and which is AI and ML, and because everybody says that, but I'm not saying just because everybody says it. I actually not only truly believe it, but it's actually very true to us and to my shop as well. See, I'm actually a child of AI winter. I graduated in when I did my engineering, I specialized in artificial intelligence and neural networks, and I that's one of the reasons I started with the airline industry, because they were the only ones who were anyway close to making something good come out neural net. But as the world has evolved, I mean, we lost almost a decade and a half in not being able to really get these technologies to work for us. I think in the last few years we've actually nailed that. We've really understood that how it's not just about purely using AI to do everything soup to nuts, but it's using that artificial intelligence together with the human intelligence and getting the most out of it. And that's where world over we are seeing some of the best results come over. It's the same in our shop as well. And I think the other piece is for organizations like us, which have, billions and billions and billions of records to process on a daily basis, there is no other way and there's no other respite but actually to rely on machine learning to actually learn and deliver patterns and actually recommend to you that these are things that you could actually look at next. And I think it's really liberated how we run a large part of not only our business, but actually our operations as well. The second big thing that I think is the result of this that's coming up, and we are very big adopters of that, is self-healing applications, actually building no ops as well. In our data centers, our entire core monitoring operations, which was a big part of any data center operation, managing the incidents and and doing service management around them, etc. Highly automated. We run a nearly humanless operation when it comes to those. We had over 100 people doing that a few years ago, and I probably have about 7 doing that today, and a whole lot of AI. And the efficiency is dramatically different. We're able to predict issues way before they happen, even before the market has noticed them, go and correct them very much in a timely manner. So actually the customers don't get impacted at all. And almost 60-70% of these cases, the systems react themselves and solve the problem themselves. The humans told after the fact that, hey, this happened, this is what I did, you might want to go and double check it. And same happens whether it's a hardware failure or it's a software failure or anything that impacts customer experience as well. And I think that's what's really allowing us to change. I also think, coming back to the point of AI ML, I think it's really going to be one thing that the number of people today using AI ML is way higher than people who don't even realize. And I think this is where technology is going. People don't need to realize that they are using that. Every time you're using a voice assistant, either on your phone or in your house or in any of the apps, you're actually using AI. You're using natural language processing as well. You're using speech to text. You're using text to speech. You're using a lot of pattern recognition. The way the telecom industry and our regulation on how acquisition happens, the amount of AI that goes in and just clicking that photograph and ensuring the human is live and there is depth and there is liveness and doing, comparing the photograph to the POI that's given and aging the POI, because a lot of your identity cards are going to be 10-15 years old. So how do you age that before you compare the faces? I mean, all of that is use of AI. So it's becoming very much, it's in every walk of life. So I think that's definitely one game-changing technology. I think the second piece is as the world evolves, I think it's going to be really about making technology and digital and its different parts of technology that are actually going to come together to really make life simpler. And whether it is what we are seeing now, new innovations starting to come as which COVID has actually accelerated massively around telemedicine and the entire pharma and the medical industry. What we are also seeing in connected devices all around the world and around the country. I think all of these things, these technologies are not new. They've existed for at least the last 5 to 10 years. But the adoption of them, the more we simplify that, what we're going to see in this decade is them getting adopted in a big way. And then, of course, I hope to see a flying car in the decade, because that's one I'm looking forward to buy.
So what do you think about the future of AI? Is it going to be like a Terminator movie where machines would take over? Are you kind of an extremist in terms of your view about how AI is going to evolve, or you think that it is going to solve the human problem?
I think it's going to solve a lot of basic problems, even if it's just a reminder as I'm, leaving the house saying, by the way, you got no milk in your fridge, or it is, allowing my e-commerce company to kind of seamlessly deliver something in my house without actually me having to be present there. Or it is, it's the use of, like I said, the use of voice to make my life easier as I'm going around probably the most mundane tasks around the house, or even maintaining a to-do list or putting up my morning alarm. Or I think the success of AI is really going to be when it's kind of subtly everywhere. But I do believe, I'm a very big believer in the ethics of AI as well. And And in fact, we've been doing some work around that as well. I think this also brings in a lot of moral and corporate responsibility on all kind of organizations and corporates, and even on the policymakers as well. And I really think, I think there is no better time than now, for every company should, which uses heavy technology, should also have the motto of do no evil. I think that's going to be very important, because if we keep the ethics very much in place and in check, then that is when we are going to make it into a big adoption.
I think on this note, we can end this session. And when it comes to key takeaways, for me, the biggest key takeaway from this discussion was the ethical AI part of discussion, wherein we need to know what we are doing and to solve a larger problems that we have. On that note, Harmeen, let's end this, and thank you very much for agreeing to do this. And it was good to have you. Thank you.
Thank you, Danish.
Thank you, Harmeen and Danish, for sharing your thoughts and knowledge. Ladies and gentlemen, you can visit the exhibit hall where all partners' booths are set up. You can watch informative videos and download useful assets too. There is a networking lounge as well, where you can search delegates by the name, designation, and organization. You can also network with the attendees via chat and email. At the networking lounge, you can have a facility to share your business card as well.